What's up, super fans? It is Fit Nerd from Superheroes Ultimate. Welcome to another episode of Heroes Finest, where we discuss, review, and reveal all the latest and the greatest in the superhero realm. And let's discuss episode 5 of Loki, where Kang is not the villain. There's a couple of things pointing out to it, and man, this is filled with a bunch of Easter eggs in this episode. So let's crack open a can of rain. And let's discuss. And if you guys want to try out the new lychee flavor of rain, I placed a link in the description below. As always, if you guys want to support our channel and want to show your love for what we do here on the Nerd World, check out our official merch as we partnered up with YouTube, which includes t-shirts, tank tops, mugs, totes, stickers, face masks, and so much more. So if you want to check out some of our latest official merch, take a look right below the video. So this episode takes place in the void of all time. The void, which is a purgatory of sorts, where everybody that gets pruned ends up. It's like a big giant landfill of just variants and things that they wanted to dispose of that doesn't belong in the timeline according to whoever is running the TVA. And like all landfills, whether you're burning the garbage or disposing it in some sort of way of burying it, in the void, everything is being disposed by the creature of Eliath, which is exactly what it is in the comics. Eliath is a multi-dimensional being that goes around eating matter itself. Now, it's also good to point out that whoever it is behind the TVA or is running the TVA actually managed to tame this multi-dimensional monster that eats everything out of existence, basically, and is using it as a guard dog. And speaking about creatures that just don't make sense, does anybody else want a little tiny toy figure of these chickens that have balls for heads floating around? I don't know if it's just me. I would love to have a tiny figure or even a stuffed figure of these ball-headed chickens. Give this video a like if you want a blue ball-headed chicken. And of course, this is one of my most absolute favorite episodes because we have Lokis galore. We have boastful Loki, kid Loki, and future old Loki, which is severely OP and shows us the true potential of what a Loki is actually able to do. And I don't know about you, but Richard E. Grant absolutely nailed the role. Comic book accurate, journey into mystery, old school Loki. He just absolutely blew my mind, and man, I really hope we see this Loki in particular back at it again at some point in either future shows or movies, because this Loki, as we know, Lokis just don't die.
Does Loki survive? That's just what we do.
They are great at surviving. They can fake their deaths a million times over. And that line where he says to fool the Mad Titan himself when he tried to kill him is possibly hints as how our Loki may actually come back to our MCU of the Universe 616, because he may have learned something new from future Loki and project himself in a way to even fool the Mad Titan himself. And apparently, Kid Loki is no pushover, because in his universe, the reason why he ended up here is because he actually successfully killed Thor. And speaking about Thor's, gotta love that Easter egg with the jar and our frog Thor. So not only do we have alligator Loki, we actually got to see a glimpse of our frog Thor. And although it was only for like a split second that we got to see, I really hope that in future time he actually escapes this bottle, because as you can see, he's trying to jump towards his hammer from inside the jar. And on the jar, it actually says 365, and issue Thor 365 is the first appearance of Frog Thor. We have the famous Thanos chopper, which we saw in the comics. We see a rundown Avengers Tower with the title Kang on the side of the building, which is hinting at Nathaniel Richards buying the Avengers Tower. As we saw in Spider-Man Homecoming, Iron Man sold Avengers Tower to who we still don't know, but this could be hinting out that Nathaniel Richards is actually the current owner of the Avengers Tower. Back at the TVA, we have Sylvie interrogating Renslayer, in trying to find out more about who created the TVA, how it was created, everything and the information from the beginning of time and the founding of the TVA. And then Miss Minutes comes up looking mad sus. There's something about Miss Minutes because she was the one that covered for Renslayer while looking for the files and distracting them to make up for time for the actual Minutemen to come in and try to kill Sylvie. And I'm still not completely sure if Renslayer is actually playing a double-sided game here, a game within a game, just like a Loki would, or she really just found out about the TVA being a bunch of BS and she actually wants to find out who is actually the one that's in charge of the TVA. Because it looks like she's been kind of brainwashed, but she's been mad sus the entire season that I really don't believe everything, due to the fact that she actually knew what happened when variants got pruned and where they ended up.
When we prune a branched reality, it's impossible to destroy all that's matter. So we move it to a place on the timeline where it won't continue growing.
Knew all about the Void, and then Miss Minutes comes up about the Void spacecraft, which is BS just to buy time. And it's quite possible that can be nearly as powerful as the Sorcerer Supreme himself, as we saw when they escaped throughout the battle of all of these variant Lokis fighting amongst each other. He can create portals to just escape out of situations just like the Sorcerer Supreme and all of the wizards can. Not only that, but he literally conjured up an entire projection of Asgard. And then we find out that B-15 is still alive because of her link to Sylvie. But since B-15 is still alive, could that mean the Hunter C-20 is still alive as well? And then Mobius, being the badass analyst that he is, obviously he survived and hijacked the pizza delivery car, saved Sylvie, only to rejoin with the team of Lokis. Now, with the sacrifice of our future Loki, which, like I stated before, I don't think he's really gone if he's that OP, we get our Sylvie and Loki going into what looks like a portal of sorts after taming Eliath. Now, this is where my mind just went wild, because the castle or housing that we see here could be a multitude of things that doesn't necessarily mean Kang, but it could be Kang, but it may not be. Let me explain. Here we go. Alright, so first off, it looks like a house or a castle, not necessarily an entire kingdom like people keep on saying it's Chronopolis. Chronopolis is an entire goddamn city, which looks like, well, the TVA, which the TVA could actually be Chronopolis. But whoever is hiding within what we're seeing at this end credit scene looks more to be either a house or a castle, which could only be a couple of things not pointing towards, which don't necessarily point towards Kang. And it's not to disregard that Kang may be the major villain towards the end of this, which would probably be popping up more in Quantum Mania or Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. But it actually kind of looks like Castle Doom, to whom is run by none other than Doctor Doom. This is a majorly out there theory, knowing that Doom is a severely huge supervillain that I very much doubt would be a reveal in a show. As we saw and learned in WandaVision, let's keep our hopes a little bit underground, because there's no way that they're going to introduce major villains within the show level, because as we know, it wasn't Mephisto, it was... And then we get the majorly underwhelming reveal in Falcon and Winter Soldier with the power broker being Sharon Carter. Still disappointed with that. Loved the entire show, but disappointed with that. Now, if it's not Chronopolis and it's not Castle Doom, because, well, Doctor Doom would be something majorly awesome. I would love to see that, but that's got to be something that's going to be released within the Fantastic Four universe of things. The other thought that I had was it could be the House of Ideas, which we have seen in comics. If you don't know what the House of Ideas is, the House of Ideas is the core of all reality and the birthplace of all that was, all that is, and all that yet may be, that is dwelling in the space of the one above all, which is technically like the Marvel universe of representation of God, the ultimate creator of everything. And within this place, infinite stories are born and thoughts and ideas can take physical shape. There is one person that we saw in the House of Ideas which actually in the comics managed to take over, and that is Loki himself. And in the comics, there was a point where there was a version of Loki that took over everything at the House of Ideas, creating different realities. And as we've seen within this episode, that Lokis cannot be trusted amongst any other Lokis, and the only Loki that can be up against the Loki is, well, a Loki. Now, I do give some credit to a good friend of mine, Willie, because Willie is the one that actually stated that it's not going to be Kang and it's going to be Loki at the castle sitting in a throne. After all of this, just like in WandaVision, it's almost the most unexpected and kind of expected villain that we might see is a conquering Loki, a successful Loki. After all, there is a bunch of variants of Lokis, and as we've seen throughout the show, the main focus of the TVA is to hunt down and take out as many Lokis from the multiverse because they're ruining the timeline that they don't want. Who else other than a Loki would be want to take out a bunch of other Lokis? Could it be that this Loki is in cahoots working with Kang the Conqueror, or a form of Kang the Conqueror? Because as we know from the comics, there is more than one Kang involved when it comes to the story of Kang, including the one main Kang, Immortus. Immortus is the one that actually worked with the TVA and was given the ability to reign his own time for 7,000 years. And it took another Kang to join the Avengers to take down that Kang. So it could possibly be that inside of this house or castle, we may end up seeing a Loki behind all of the TVA and working in cahoots with Kang the Conqueror. By far, the last episode was my favorite of the season. Number 5 now takes the cake because this is now officially my favorite episode, and introducing my favorite Loki by far, Richard E. Grant, is absolutely outstanding as a Loki. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is the real villain of this entire series? It may not be the big reveal of Kang the Conqueror himself, but it may actually lead up into linking his existence in the MCU. Like we saw the introduction of Thanos into the MCU with the 2 seconds that we saw him just turn around and smile at the end of Avengers. But what do you guys think? Comment below. As always, if you guys enjoyed what you saw here today, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, give us a like, turn on the notifications, and if you want to show some support for our channel and get some official merch, or get some official apparel and collectibles, place all the links in the description below. This episode is awesome and Wednesday cannot come any closer. Does anybody have a temp pad that it could just lend to me right now so I can just go to Wednesday and then let you guys what happens? Well, I'm off to see Black Widow. Until the next, Fit Nerd, over and out.